Hello, everyone. My name is Kaylee Ann Tayek, and I'm here to share with you my capstone project called Creative Arts for ASD. This is a 4-week evidence-based artistic intervention to target social skills deficits in adult populations with autism spectrum disorder. The populations for this study were defined as low verbal, or for this study, the ability to answer yes/no questions or prompt with a few-word reply. My research aim is to demonstrate that the creative arts activities can serve as an effective modality for social skills development in low verbal adults with ASD. And ultimately, I want to contribute to the field of arts and health, providing an evidence-informed program model for replicable implementation. A bit about me: I am currently the program manager for the UCF Center for Autism and Related Disabilities. And before that, I was a teacher, and I've worked for about 16 years with varying populations with different types of abilities. My reason for this, the study rationale, is that autism is a very complex neurodevelopmental disorder, and there's substantial evidence that creative exercises can be utilized to support them. And this is seen across all professions. And there are arts-based interventions that are made to target and naturally target social skills development. Additionally, there's a big gap in research for adults with ASD, specifically those that are low verbal or require higher support needs. So autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder with deficits in social interactions, communication, and typically has some element of a restrictive or repetitive behavior. There are numerous practitioners working in this field, from psychologists to behavior analysts, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, cognitive behavioral therapists, creative and expressive therapists, and of course, teachers in schools and in community centers, educators working with this population every day. Now, arts and health in my study design, I wanted to be really specific of bringing my scope of practice, being mindful of the collaboration that's inherent in working with a vulnerable population such as this, and then also the work with the population itself, making sure that it is expressive in nature and how they're engaging, and it's really person-centered, very focused on the individual. So this is not a one-for-one replica design of a program that already exists. So all of my design is informed by all the different fields that are already that are working with this population. And as I did that research, I targeted it really on 3 social skills domains. Those domains were social cohesion, nonverbal communication, and reciprocal communication. And I targeted really the methodology of educators, as I felt like that was the most transitional methods for an average arts and health practitioner. But the evidence itself is also informed by the creative, expressive therapies, occupational therapy, and speech and language therapy as well. In regards to the research, I leaned on my site supervisor, Dr. Terry Daly, who encouraged me to look at the ways that behavior analysts really quantify how students are engaging and explaining how they engaged and why that is moving towards growth within a skill. So being really intentional in targeting the evaluation side was a component of something I was hoping to learn from this and infuse into the program itself. For data collection, I have 3 main components: an intake survey that has 2 parts. It has preferential questions. So asking students, asking the parent or caregiver of participants what they like, especially related to music and the arts, and then doing a social competence scale, parent assessment of their current social skill abilities. That comes back at the end as well. And then at the end, we evaluate for just the general programmatic qualitative stuff. For the facilitator observation log. So this is the assessment that's happening inside the classroom itself. I made a skill codes, a little targeted sheet of the things we'd be working on within the activities, and then a log that identifies how well the participant engaged with the prompts to participate in the different activities. So there's lots of pieces and components here, again, going back to creating a really holistic program that can be replicated. For data analysis, I am using thematic analysis that is applied to educational context. So really honing in specifically on thematic analysis, but in a specific field. Like I said, for the observation logs, I'm doing a process called skill acquisition towards skill mastery. So this is what ABA or applied behavior analysts would use in their sessions, but I'm doing it at a much smaller scale. Um, and then the post session, we have the pre and post on the social competency scale, and then other questions that are analyzed with thematic analysis. Literature, I had to approach in a unique way because, again, this is not something that's already happening in this way in the field. So I had to research the autism spectrum disorder and all the domains and deficits within social skills specifically, all the methods currently being used in the field to the best of my ability, seeing what's out there across professions, and then harnessing in on what's happening specific to the creative professions, and then finding really good assessment tools. So how to quantify what's happening in the classroom and the parents' perception of their student and their social skills abilities. There were a ton of resources that I have utilized. To point out a few, the educational resources, so sources that talked about social skills domains and application to classroom settings, applications to explore growth within a skill, using creative approaches to enhance one's ability to be more social or communicative. Those were all of high interest to me, regardless of the field that they were in. Most of the work that I found were either teachers doing different types of teachers, speech and language pathologists, and even psychologists and various types of therapists outside of the creative therapies. That are already using arts-based practices. Role play is pretty inherent across most of this research as something that practitioners are using without any real drama background. So it's fun to see how creativity is already infused with how we work with the autism population. So really kind of targeting that and seeing where those trends went and those commonalities, and finding really the best and most functional way to create an arts and health program that could do the same thing. So I chose from all the different social competency scales that are out there. There are many of them. The one I chose was the parent perception, because I felt with the low verbal, especially just the needs of this population and how able they would be to respond on these things. It would be better if a caregiver was doing it for them. And since I don't know these participants, I'm not a good assessment tool in this way. And it's a very short time in which we're working with what begin as strangers, and I'm sure will end as friends. I also have to say I'm disappointed with some of the things that are out there. There's a lot of paywalls that exist for really great resources, evaluative materials that have been tried and true and validated, but to use them, you have to pay for them. So that wasn't going to be an appropriate solution for this particular project. For my study design itself, I had really several things I had to think about. It was a program design, the actual session plans, what we're doing for those 90 minutes working with this small group of adults, how I would work those evaluative pieces into the overall how the program would be managed, and then driving towards some outcomes and then final deliverables. For my program outline, I have my intake process, which has two pieces to it. There was a intake survey that went to all people who were interested. And it had the social competency scale, along with questions about preferred musical artists and theme suggestions. Once I got the intake survey and I reviewed them, I had to make sure that they met the qualifications, that they were low verbal, they were in the right age range, they could attend all 4 sessions. And if so, then they were given the consent form. In this moment as well, I started to look at those preferred choices and see what kind of project, what kind of themes I could use to really build sessions that would be very engaging and of interest to these participants. So from there, I started to design the 4 90-minute sessions. During each of these sessions, I would quickly assess the student's ability to meet me in when I was prompting engagement. How well were they responding to me, and how well could I teach or work with them to get them to engage in a bigger or better way? Um, so I tried to do that, the logging in person. I already knew going into this that would be really hard to do while also facilitating. So I recorded every one of the sessions, and from the back I go through and I analyze the prompts that are given and the opportunities for engagement and see how well they really tangibly or not tangibly respond to the prompts given and engage with the music or the art or the drama in a way that can be really quantified. Um, at the end of this, I have a post-class survey that's going to come back to those social competency scale questions, and then some qualitative questions around the program that'll use thematic analysis to code and assess really what made the program either good, good or bad, what would need to be potentially changed, and what were some real key takeaways to build into a future, hopefully evidence-based model others could use. My study design. So in the sessions, we have 90 minutes. I use a blend of 6 creative arts and methods. These were found across different areas of study, but most specifically, I used resources from music education resources and art activities and creative drama activities. So all things that I had originally learned in undergrad and have been applying out in the field ever since. But then also bringing those into the field of study and finding where they already exist and who else is using those same strategies I learned there, and bringing them out into the community now. The methods that I'm utilizing are listen and respond games, some very simple standard theater games, collaborative storytelling, prompted or prompt-based music play, music interpretation exercises, and music listening activities. So all these things are happening, kind of moving from one activity to the next within that 90 minutes, keeping it fast-paced, keeping that engagement high. And meanwhile, there's evaluation happening. The evaluation that's happening in the class itself is collected through observation logs. I have learned the process. Again, my awesome site supervisor, Dr. Dave Daly, is a doctorate level applied behavior analyst. So she really encouraged me to learn the skill acquisition process, to be able to say how a student is engaging with a skill. Not they had a great time. They were really engaged. Okay, well, how, why? This can help answer the how and the why, and really say specifically to the parent, they were engaged in this way for this amount of time. I know that they had a good time. I can show you in the data. So the skill acquisition process, I made, like I said earlier, a skill tree or the skill codes, and then the opportunities within each class to target 3 to 5 of those. And then whenever the student does follow the prompt or do the skill, I mark a circle, a filled in circle. If they needed additional prompting to do that skill, they get a slash. If they never did the skill even with prompting, then it's an X. And the goal is that time over time, the more times that you're prompting and engaging with the student, the more times you're giving them the opportunity to learn and engage with you. So trying to move those X's to the slashes and the slashes to the full circles to really show and help them engage and show growth. In addition to what happens in the classroom, of course, there's the pre and post that has the social competency scale. So that's taking the Likert scale. All the questions are on a Likert scale, and seeing where they fall at the beginning and seeing if there's any change at the end. And then any of the long form questions, analyzing them with thematic analysis, but again, specific to an educational program. So it looks very similar, but slightly different, in that it's taking into account what an educational classroom space might look like, or the relationship with the practitioner and the student, and my knowledge of the student having a piece in how I will code and analyze that data. Um, the anticipated outcomes, we're going back to targeting. There's lots of different social skills, but all the social skills for this program are within three domains: the domains of social cohesion, or sorry, group social cohesion, nonverbal communication, and reciprocal communication. So I'm hoping to have really high engagement in all those areas, and really being able to show that students participated and they responded and they had cooperative behavior and enjoyment in this engagement with these different arts activities. And all of them are just applications of social skills that they can do. And here's an opportunity for them to do so in a creative and fun way. Again, my program, I'm really wanting to create something that is replicable by others. So I created in from the onset that this will be an evidence-informed program model for future arts and health practitioners to replicate. With that, in my final capstone will also include, in addition to just the program abstract, a little training module about how to do these exercises, the 4 session plans used, and then the intake form, the observational logs and how to use them, and post-program survey. So allowing people out there, no paywall, just to pick it up and say, let me try this, let me work with a population that might not be getting served the way that they could or should be. My capstone is still in progress. We have 2 of the 4 sessions have been completed. From the intake forms, the theme that was chosen was Disney's Lion King, which 60% of the participants in saying what they were interested in, if they had to name a show, a Broadway show, a movie, and knowing that Lion King was not even an option given as a suggestion, they chose the Lion King. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. The skill acquisition has been really difficult to do on site, has been easier to do in the video analysis. So I have a little sample here of how the field notes are kind of taking place really in the classroom, because it's too hard. You're facilitating, you're part of it, you're engaging. There's not really an opportunity to just keep pausing, getting behind a clipboard. So being able to assess after the fact, or when appropriate during the class, where the students are falling within the targeted domains, and then going back and getting really intentional with it with the video later. But I'm really excited for more sessions and more detailed analysis of these outcomes to really be able to answer the how the students engaged, and why the arts are important, and why these social skills can be applied and performed within arts exercises. So thank you so much for listening to my to my qualifier. I am very excited for what is to come with this project and the UF Arts and Medicine Master's Program. Thank you so much.